All right, so now that we've got our basic if this then that kind of trigger and response automation set up, I want to touch briefly on and dive into a little bit on the state of the data before the trigger. So there are different apps and different services that are out there that allow you to. Oh, I'm sorry, Rose. I didn't even we didn't get to you. Were you here on Monday or did you miss Monday? Okay, so I'll get with
I was
you.
out of the country, and so
Oh, totally
Tyler
understandable.
sat in my place on Monday.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're hopefully a little caught up. If not, you and I can get together after this, and we can just bring you up to speed real quick. Okay. Awesome. So we have our basic trigger and response or trigger and action logic there, but there's all kinds of stuff that you can do to prepare that data or prepare that information before it even Zapier even sees it. That can really expand the possibilities for what you're doing. And the thing I'm talking about is basic filters. When you have your data, let's say in Google Sheets, or in our case today, I'm going to show you some Airtable tricks here. How many people here have used Airtable or have access to Airtable? One, two, three, four. Okay, at least half of the people. So for those of you who don't have access to Airtable, Airtable is an amazing program, but it's understandably not accessible to a lot of people because of the cost per user. Personally, at the center, we have one account that we pay for that we share the password for among our staff, which if you are at all aware of data security and revision tracking and tracking changes, you know that's a nightmare. So we try to limit that to only the more tech savvy people in our organization. But every once in a while, I'll get in there and be like, oh my God, what happened? Thank God we pay for revision history, but we can't see who did it. Also, another sort of side note, it's very scary when you have automations that are looking at an Airtable base and then someone gets in there and like, oh, sorry, I deleted these rows. Let me add them back. And then you get 48 emails in your inbox that were automatically sent about an event that happened like 3 months ago. I've done that personally. It's happened. But I'm going to show you very briefly the type of thing that I'm talking about here. The way that filters work and how you can use them to create different kinds of triggers or different kinds of pre-existing conditions for a zap before it even happens. And I'll show you what that looks like here in Zapier. This is going to look a little complicated at first, but I promise this is just for demonstration purposes. So the center runs something called our Spanish news translation service. And Airtable is somewhat similar to the functionality of Google Sheets, but it is what's called a relational database, as opposed to a basic spreadsheet, which is just one spreadsheet of rows and columns and cells. You can add tabs on Google Sheets, but they can't really talk to each other. You can't without some serious formulas. I'm sure somebody can correct me that this works, in some ways. But essentially, what Airtable allows you to do, in addition to having different tabs, which can have records that are linked, as you can see here, where we have our list of translators, and when we click on the organization that they're with, it pulls up, and you can see this little white line that goes from this record into the organizations tab. That means that information is being pulled from the organizations tab, which we've sort of filled out, and is being pulled in and referenced in the column that says organization. The same thing here. Every time a translator is tagged as responsible for translating a particular submission, you can see that that is linked in this field here, and I can scroll through these and I can click on them, and it will bring up that record. And again, it's tied back to the submissions tab. And again, I know this is fast, I know this is complicated, but my only point in showing you this is to give you the understanding of the difference between a database and a spreadsheet in this case. And there are better nerds, more nerdier people out there than me who can get into more detail. But for our purposes, the thing that makes Airtable really useful is it allows you to take this one spreadsheet. In addition to linking it to other tabs or other spreadsheets, it allows me to create different views, and each view can be filtered or sorted independently from the original master list without changing the data or having to create a new tab. And in fact, I'm going to show you a different spreadsheet instead, different base instead, rather than the Spanish translation. Here is what I call our summarize and promote uh, uh, sheet here. And all this is essentially, these are form responses that are submitted via an Airtable form, or in most cases via the Airtable web clipper. So if I just go to nj.com, let's say I'd like to, or I'll just go to our Medium our Medium publication. Let's say I have something, we've just published a Medium post, and I would like to submit information about this to our Airtable base, and I would like that to be logged, right? So the Airtable web clipper is a browser extension that essentially allows you to open up an Airtable submission form from any web page with a click of a button. And when I click it, this little sidebar appears, and you can see I can scroll through a bunch of different forms that we've created. In particular, this one is called Submit Web Content. Now, if I want to submit this so that it goes into Airtable, and then from Airtable, Zapier does something with it, I can use the clipper, or I can submit it via the form. And I'm going to grab the text from this and the images, because it won't take images. It's a plain text field. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it into the text. So this is the text we want to promote. Now I have in this form, as you can see, I have a couple of different drop-down single select or multiple select options that will allow me later on, allow Zapier later on to know what to do with this information based on what has been submitted. So for instance, I'm going to select the vibe of the promotional text. So I want this to be active voice, third person, informative, and direct. And the purpose, why are we promoting this? Where are we going to promote this? We're going to promote this in our collaborative journalism newsletter. We also want to send this out to our general promotional audience. We want this to, there's a set of people who are an audience that we want to promote. It's auto-populated the URL. And in fact, if you highlight text before you click on the Airtable extension, it will auto-populate this first field with the text that is being sent, right, or the text that's highlighted. So now that I've selected the options here, you can sort of already, hopefully you can already tell where I'm going with this based on the selections I make or the user makes. If it's not just me, if it's one of my coworkers who doesn't know how these automations work, I've given them an interface either through this form or the web clipper to give me the information in the format that I need to feed it into Zapier as part of a larger automation. And the reason why this works is because we have different views here. And as you'll see, they correspond to the promotional purpose. If I just do this for all of them, all four of these, it will filter these submissions based on whether or not purpose has any of these selected, and I can choose which ones here. So as I choose this, I'm going to take out NJNC newsletter, and I'm going to keep in the partner newsletter, general promo, and collaborative journalism newsletter. And when I hit this, you'll see that, boom, at the bottom here, we have this text has been submitted. Now, this automation is active. So in a minute, you'll see this record change automatically, and then I'll explain what's happening behind the scenes and how we get the result. There's several steps of the Zap involved in here, and there's multiple Zaps that are all looking at this database, but each one is looking at a different filtered view up, and you can see it's already happening here. Something's already going on. So we've got our link in here. We've got the vibe or the tone. We've got the general promo. And as I'm talking, what's happening behind the scenes is something called our summarize and promote workflow here. So you see we've got one for the CJ newsletter, which is collaborative journalism, partner newsletter, summarize and promote general, and then I don't think there's an NJCNC one anymore. I took that out. So for our summarize and promote, I'll show you what this looks like behind the scenes. This is a lot of steps. Most of these are unnecessary. In fact, I'll go back and I'll show you the CJ one instead because it's a lot simpler, or it's a little bit simpler. But don't be intimidated by this. These are step-by-step one things. When there is a new record in the table, that is the summarized table, that is limited to the collaborative journalism newsletter view based on the selection, it will act on that new record. And unless it appears in that view, unless it has that tag for the CJ newsletter, it doesn't appear in that view. So right away, instead of using like a Zap, a filter by Zapier step here and using an extra step, I've created a filter essentially outside of Zapier to both save myself money and like actions in Zapier, and to make things a little bit more accessible for people who don't get into Zapier. And you can see on the screen now, a bunch of stuff has just happened on the screen. It's automatically being updated. And then you will also, if you look over here, if we notice, we've got a new entry coming in here from our newsletter bot with a whole bunch of information based on this article we've just submitted. So we've got a summary, we've got possible headlines, which for the love of God, I cannot get them to not do it in all lowercase, or it's either lowercase or title case, but that's irrelevant. And then we've got a bulleted list of like why people should care about this as just an additional helpful perspective on this. But you'll notice that if I go to the CJ newsletter, I've only submitted one thing, but in the CJ newsletter, this is the same item, but it has a different format. We've got headline, blurb, headline, blurb, headline, blurb. Much different, all from a single submission. And then we go over here to the promo, and we have an even yet another one with sample social posts, the similar importance thing, some headlines as well, and a summary. Now, each of these summaries are tailored to that tone or vibe that we selected at the beginning, but they're also coupled with additional instructions about the audience for each newsletter. Right. So you can see how powerful this can be by simply pre-setting up or setting up in advance these filters to give the Zap additional instructions without having to code all of that or put all that together manually in Zapier. We've already opened up the possibility for a much more layered and multifaceted automation. And again, I just showed you this as a demonstration. It's meant to be a little bit intimidating because I wanted to demonstrate the power of this based on a very simple submission. And I can even do things behind the scenes even further when I go to submit this text. Instead of just doing the text itself, I can, for instance, if I highlight all this, and let's say I would like to give a little additional instructions, I don't have to just leave this submission as is. I can come in here in the beginning and I can type focus on the democracy aspects of this text. And then I can, and any kind of instructions I want in here, and refer to every person as Joe Amditis, even if that's not their name. Now, if you haven't guessed already, there's a layer of generative AI going on here. And we're not going to, I said at the beginning, we're not going to get too into that, but I only show you this to demonstrate that using a simple layer insert of generative AI is really where a lot of these tools shine. You don't have to get into all kinds of crazy prompt engineering, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be part of the Zap. Those filtered views really go a long way. And as I was going to show you before, a very similar thing is happening over here, but much simpler. So when our staff member identifies an English language news story that from one of our reporting partners of our Spanish translation project that we would like to have translated into Spanish, all they have to do is come in here. Good Lord, there's a lot of these entries. Come into the database here, add a new record, and insert or use the web clipper, insert the headline, the byline, the excerpt, the original URL, and then assign a translator here. And as soon as they click this, as soon as there is a translator assigned, Zapier is watching and it sees it takes all this information and it automatically sends an email to that translator. As you can see here, it is it is Julie Delgado, and it says, "Hi there, a new English language story has been approved, ready to be translated into Spanish. This email contains information about the story." And then it inserts the link to the original story, and we have some pre-formatted text here with the headline, the author, the excerpt, the tag, the focus, and then any notes that they want to leave for that translator. The translator in this case is Mariela Santos Muniz. So they then receive that email. They have, let's say, if our translator coordinator has not received a translated version of a Google Doc back from them in 3 days or whatever, we have our reminders here. So this view is the same database of all those submissions, but it has a filter that it only shows where the stories that the submissions that were added before 3 days ago and the translated versions field is empty. That will trigger another email that says, "Hi, you received this translation or this story for translation 3 days ago. Just checking in to see how it's going." And now all of this, again, is just a simple filter outside of Zapier. And all Zapier is doing is looking for a new entry in this view, this filtered view. So without adding additional steps here, without adding additional steps or zaps over here, all I have to do is set up the Airtable in the background or a series of filters or conditional filters in Google Sheets so that that information appears where Zapier is looking after a certain time or based on a certain set of parameters. So I want to pause right there. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Are you understanding how this can really add to the power of this? So even with a series of 1 or 2 step zaps, as long as they are looking at the right place for the trigger, they can act on those new actions or those new trigger actions without even having to set that up in multi-step zaps. Any questions before I dive into we show an example of how we might set this up? Any ideas coming to mind about how you might utilize a tactic like this to enhance your automation here? Any use cases? James, you look like you want to unmute.
Well, I haven't used Airtable before, so I'm pretty new to it, but I use Monday, and I feel like at least some of the functions in terms of
Yeah.
the sorting seem pretty good. Being able to track certain updates, being able to filter them that easily.
Yeah, Trello is another one,
I'm-
where you have those Kanban boards.
Yeah,
As soon as a new item is moved to this column, all of a sudden now, hey, the person who is assigned to can get an email saying you've got a new task.
yeah.
That alone is super powerful, but also super simple. Anybody here use Kanban? I kind of forgot about Kanban boards and Monday and Trello. Anybody else use that kind of project or task management software? I got another Monday user, Lisa. Lisa, how do you use Monday? And for those of you who don't know, Monday is just another project management tool by I'm assuming Asana or something. ClickUp, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I use Monday well, I used it in my previous position at a nonprofit I mean, we managed everything in Monday.
Yep.
And then now as a solopreneur, I mean, I use it, I try to use it for everything. I'm wondering about like automations between QuickBooks and potentially or yeah, maybe I'm attending this on behalf of Dallas Free Press, right? But
Hmm.
also thinking about it for myself with maybe automations with like QuickBooks for sending invoices because solopreneur like won't let me have to manually do all of that. And yeah, I mean, uh the use cases are endless,
Yeah.
basically.
So the good news is that I'm assuming with QuickBooks, you also have access to QuickBooks Online, right? Because one of the limitations of Zapier is that you can't like have it act on Microsoft Word. You can do like OneDrive files or whatever the 3 other names that Microsoft has for their cloud document services right now. Outlook, these kind of things have to be, it can't be offline only apps. So QuickBooks Online is available in Zapier. So you can actually use that as one of the integrations. And if not, if there's something that you can't, I believe, I don't quote me on this, but I believe make.com, the other one we discussed, should have that.
Yeah.
But yes, so one way we use this is the reminders, right? So the tasks kind of a thing. So with a Kanban board, which for those of you who aren't familiar, it's basically a series of columns and little like cards in each column that you can click and drag over to the new one. Typically, it's used to track the progress of a project or a series of tasks. When a new card is moved into a particular column or sector, it is typically either seen as it's now in the next stage of development or it has moved into someone else's area of responsibility. And their job is to check that column or series of columns for new cards that come in or tickets that come in. And then when they're done with that, they move it to the done column or the next step in the process. And even if you don't automate all that, or if you have people consistently coming back to that Kanban board and watching their to-do list or task list, and again, this can also work with Todoist and other project and task management software, you're already set up for success right there because now, especially for those employees who maybe don't always immediately, regularly go back to the Kanban board, all you have to do is set up an automation where as soon as you pull a card or a task over into their column, they will get an email or they will get a Slack message, or maybe the whole team gets a Slack message letting them know, hey, this step of the process has been completed and is now ready for step number 2, 3, or 4. So we're going to set something up like that real quick, and I'm going to try to we're going to use our email addresses so I don't continue to spam my team here. And I'm going to use this. I'm going to set up a new Airtable base, just a blank one in our Center for Cooperative Media workspace. I'm going to close all this, and I'm just going to call this Task Tracker. And we are going to create a Kanban view, which again is the same. It's using the same core data set here, but it's just a different way of presenting it. And we're going to call this tasks. And here we go. So we are going to choose a stacking field. We're going to stack this by assignee, meaning we're going to give some people here. We're going to add some email addresses, yours in particular, and we're going to create a multi-step Zap that allows you to place a new task in the column, and then when that task appears, it is going to send an email to the person who's been assigned, and then 3 days later, based on the parameters or conditions in that column, whether or not someone has interacted with it or checked a box, it's going to then send a follow-up email. And this same thing can be accomplished with checkboxes, creating moderation queues. If you're using Google Sheets now allows you to have like checkboxes and star ratings and things like that. So you can, for instance, set it up. It doesn't have to be a a relational database or a multi-view database. It can simply be, is this box checked in this column for this row? And if it is, do this. If it's not, do this, right? So we're going to do this very simple here. We're going to set it up by assignee. But first, I'm going to just clean this up real quick. So I'm going to do this very quickly here. I'm going to set up two. I'm going to go start from scratch, and I'm going to do people. And I'm going to put a few of our names. So we're going to do Tony Zimmer. We're going to do Heather Torado Gilligan. We're going to do James Kent. So I'm just going to do you three for now. And then I'm going to just pull your email addresses real quick. And I'm going to add them here. So I'm going to change the type of column. Don't worry about this if you're not an Airtable person. If you are, then watch. But I don't want you to feel like I'm leaving you behind. Real quick, I'm just going to put these in. Oh, sorry, Kent, James. There we go. Boom. And Zimmer. Okay. And I think for now, I think that's all we're going to do. We're just going to have these two areas here. These are our people. So we're going to draw from people here, and we are going to make this we're going to make this let's say coordinator, editor, and publisher for the sake of this here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to link to another record. We're going to call this assignee or person. And we're going to link to people, and I'm going to allow like multiple records. That's fine. So now when I add a person to this task, this should be task, proofread, copy, create social copy, like social media or graphics, and final review, right? So I would like to assign this task to certain people. Delete. And I'm going to keep this status one here so that you can mark this. So we're going to do a single select. The options are going to be waiting or received, in progress, need assistance, and complete. And I'm going to just change these different colors because I like it like that. Needs assistance and complete. Good. Okay, so now if we go back to our Kanban board here, we're going to group this by status. No, what's wrong with me? Wait a minute. No, that's fine. We're going to group it by status. Okay, so we have proofread copy. I fucked this up. I'm sorry. Hang on a second. This is not working in my head. I'm just going to change this to ID, and it's going to be formula, and it's going to be person plus and status. Okay, now on the left, I'm going to have task. That's going to be a single text. I think this should work. So if I have a task here, I'm going to task plus status. So this is going to be proofread copy. It's going to be assigned to James. His email is going to appear and the status is going to be received. And I'm going to add a little space here, actually. Okay. I'm actually going to put this in parentheses here. Then we're going to delete these. All right, we're going to do status. Okay, so these have been received. We can see that James Kent is the one who is assigned. And if I move this over to in progress, you see that it changes here. It shows the status is updated. And as soon as I move it again, it does the same thing. So presumably, if you had a series of tasks that you were going to do, you can put them into here. We can add a task. I'm actually going to change this to say assigned instead. That just makes more sense. We can see here that we want to move something from when we move something or when a new record appears in this column, we would like an action to take place. So presumably the task with, I'm assuming description, we would want to have description where we want to say, this is what this task involves. Read the copy and make sure it is good. Okay. Let's customize our cards to show the status and the description. Cool. So now we have our card, our assignment card, and when we move it from one to the other, or when a new one appears, we want to then send an email to the person who has been assigned. So let's go ahead and move over to Zapier, and we're going to go into our Zaps as we did before, into our folders, and we created one for instructions, so we'll just keep using that, and we're going to create a new Zap. Now, the reason I had to set this up before is because you need to do that test step. Remember, you need to test the trigger. So we're going to make sure that we do that and we have it already set up in advance. So our trigger is going to be Airtable. And our trigger event is going to be a new or updated record. Now, we could just do new record, but we want to do new or updated record because when something changes, like it's moved to another column, we also want a Zap to trigger on that as well. Now, in some cases, you might want to do two separate Zaps, or you might want to set up filters so that if you make a slight change in the record, it doesn't automatically send a new email as if it's a new task. For our purposes and simplicity, I'm just going to choose this new record now, and we can set that up later. So let's do new record, and I'm going to choose my account, which I've already set up and configured. Now, the base, it's called instruction. The table, which is that view, we want to look at the task tracker table. We don't need to know anything about when there's a new person added. That's fine. And we are going to, here we go. We're going to limit it to a specific view. Now, this view, we're going to do our tasks view, which is, again, our Kanban or Kanban, however you say it, view. We are not going to include the file contents because when you include the file contents, sometimes what happens is if you're using larger files, it will either give you like a temporary file in Airtable, and then like 10 days later or whatever, or 30 minutes later, depending on how Airtable's feeling, it's no longer, it doesn't exist, or it doesn't show up when you try to pull it. I've ran into that in other areas as well. So we're just going to leave that as false for now. So now let's go ahead and test our trigger and see if there is a new record. There is. There's our record. Proofread copy. It's assigned to James Kent. The status is assigned, and the description and ID and everything is there. Right. So that's what we want. There's been a new record. What do we want to do with that? We want to send an email. I'm going to use Gmail, and the action is going to be send email. I'm going to select my account. I will send it from my personal Gmail, and I'm going to click continue. We're going to configure this. And the two, we're going to pull in dynamic records again here. We're going to pull in the email from the person tag, and we're going to select the rest here, which you've all seen before. From me, Joe, Zapier. We can leave the reply to blank because it'll automatically be there. You have a new task awaiting in Airtable. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit a colon there, and I'm going to add the name of the task itself. So the task is proofread copy. I'll keep it as plain text. Hi, Oh, you know what we didn't put in here? That's useful. Name. We do. Oh no, we do have name. Why is it not showing up? New record. Oh, because it's not looking at the thing here. Doesn't matter. We're going to say, hi there. You have a new task. You have been assigned a new task in Airtable. Here is more info about the task. Please complete the task and below and move the card to the appropriate column in Airtable when you are finished. And then we're going to say task, proofread copy, description, / instructions. Read the copy. Date assigned. And since we have a created time, we're going to go ahead and put that there. And then we are going to go ahead and say, if you have questions, respond to this email or leave a comment in Airtable. Joe. All right, so now that should work. We're going to test this. And James, you're going to have to let me know if you get this email. It says it was sent. I can go over and I can check my sent mail here and we should see, boom, look at that. Now, if I wanted to add a little bit more, formatting or bolding or something like this, I can do that. And I can just do like add bold tags on the end of this, of each of these little labels here, and then get my /Bs to close those out. And then next time I retest, James, you're going to get a bunch of emails this time. Sorry about that, brother. You can see here in our sent email, we've sent a different one. Once this is successful, there it is. We've changed to HTML, so we need to add formatting. We're not going to do that. We're going to leave it as it was. We need to add like line breaks and everything. I'm not going to do that. So we're going to leave that as it was. And we're going to paste the original back in there. Perfect. Okay, so now this is published. So now we have anytime a new record appears anywhere. So what we want to do is we're going to publish this and maybe we'll set up a second one. Now we want to set up a second Zap that if no changes have been made to this task in 3 days, 4 days or whatever, we want to send a follow-up email to James saying, James, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Get your shit together, right? So we're going to create a new grid view and we're going to say follow up, create new view. And just in case, we're going to come over here and we're going to make sure that we have a field here that is created time. Actually, might even keep it as updated time. Let's see, last modified. So activity. And that's going to auto-populate the last time anybody has messed with this record. And that will change. We can see it's 238 here when it was created or last modified. If I come over here and I move this sucker, we can see now it says 245. So it's been updated at 245. So now we know somebody's gotten in here and has done something with this task. So James has moved it to in progress. That means basically he's received the task and he's done an action to indicate to us that, yes, I see it and I'm working on it, right? So for follow-up, we're gonna come over to this new view, which doesn't change any of the data, but we're gonna add a filter so that this only appears in this follow-up view when the activity date is, let's say, is on or before a number of days ago. And we're going to say 3 days ago. So now that's gone because it's less than 3. It was like 2 minutes ago that it was there. Once that time has elapsed, that record or that task will automatically appear in this filtered view here. And then we can set up another Zap to send another email or a follow-up. Is everybody tracking? Do you understand where I'm going with this? So we haven't even actually created a multi-step Zap, but we have other steps outside of Zapier in the apps that we're using that serve that purpose without even needing to do that. Now, what we could do instead of doing all this this reminder stuff, Zapier actually does have the ability for us to just give a delay, and we can add another step here, and we can do delay, DEL, delay by Zapier. So let's say we want to wait after or to wait for, wait until, let's say delay for, let's say 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, we're going to do another step and we're going to send another email. Let's say Gmail, same thing as before, essentially. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy, or I'm going to duplicate this. I'm just going to drag it down in between here and get rid of this other one. So now I have the same settings here. We're going to send another email to James that says, are you even working? You have a task. Right now, James, you were assigned a new task in Airtable like 5 minutes ago. And I just wanted to check to see if it's done yet. Right. So now we have another email that's going to go out. And after 5 minutes, he will get that email. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to test this. We're going to publish it. We're going to say testing the delay. Super straightforward stuff. Like it's very written out very clearly for you. And because of this, I'm just going to rename this. I'm going to say follow up. Let's say send reminder email after 5 minutes. Rename this delay. Let's say wait 5 minutes because I don't have time to wait 3 days. Send new task to assignee. This is always good practice here, because if anybody else tries to come in here and figure out how the hell you set all this up, if you're not there that day, or if you have to, hand it over for some reason, I always like to name these this way. So now that that's done, I'm going to publish this. And you'll notice that when I publish a new version, you see V2 up here in the corner, and it asks me to publish a new version and give the version a name. This is another thing that's really important, but is ignored by a lot of people, or at least is very useful in terms of like fixing and diagnosing what's happened. So I can say added a 5-minute delay with a follow-up email to assignee. So now if somebody comes back in here and say, who the hell changed the workflow here? What did you do? At the very least, they can see that currently they're on version 3, which from version 2, the change was that there was a 5-minute delay that was added with a follow-up email to the assignee. Now this is published. This is ready to go, and we're going to assign a new task to James. So the task is to read your email. Please check your email for my previous email about the task. And we're going to assign this. Let's not assign it to James. Let's assign it to Heather this time. Heather, you're going to get an email this time. It's been assigned at 2:50. So at 2:55, you should get an email. Heather, you should get an email. Now, again, I feel like I'm sort of beating a dead horse here because the time keeps getting away from me. And next time I'm going to do an hour-and-a-half sessions instead of an hour sessions. But you're seeing how these kind of layered impacts can really expand what you're doing. And I don't want you to sleep on the idea of like, it's just sending an email. These kind of documentation, you don't have to just make them email. Let's say you take a spreadsheet with information from applicants or grantee or community members, right? Or readers. And you don't want to spend time customizing, creating, like inserting all of the information and demographic and contact information. And you want to produce a series of PDFs like grant letters or acceptance letters or invitations to things. No one says that you have to do these in real time as they come in. If you already have something, the information, you create a new base, you set up the Zap with one test record, then you just paste all that information into the fields, and you can have a Google Drive folder filled with custom on your letterhead, custom styled, and everything in one push. Instead of sending it to the intern or to the data entry person, hey, can you pull from this spreadsheet and put it into this formatted template document that we have so that we can send these PDFs out to our community members or invitations? Once you start breaking out of that trigger and response and start realizing that the trigger can happen all at once, you can set up increasingly complex workflows that allow you to not only create one document, but create a document, create an email reminder, set up a delay to remind you, 2 days later to follow up. All these kinds of things, simple checkbox moderation. We saw earlier or on Monday where instead of sending an email directly, sometimes that's a little scary because as we mentioned earlier, you don't know necessarily who's going to be in that spreadsheet at all times. maybe it doesn't create, maybe it doesn't send an email directly. Maybe it creates a draft in your inbox so that you can review them and then just mass send them all at once. Or in the case of like WordPress or posting on LinkedIn or on social, maybe this allows you it creates a new record in Airtable, but the view in Airtable that it's acting on, it only appears when it's filtered to see a checkbox. And I have one of those set up. We have that summarize and promote thing I showed at the beginning. You'll notice if you go into this database here, you will see, I just put a bookmark here. There we go. That there is in each of these records, you see down here, we have a LinkedIn view. And in each one of these records, there's oops, where is it? LinkedIn. Now, this is copy that was generated based on what we've given it for LinkedIn and Facebook promotion. And it's not going to automatically post because that's crazy. I would review this and I would make sure and edit it, make sure that's good, give it some line breaks here, maybe throw some hashtags here. And then I can scroll down here and you'll notice there's a LinkedIn approved checkbox. So all this stuff is happening, but I also have a separate Zap that when I click this, it should say social post because it goes to LinkedIn and Facebook. But if I click this now, I can pop open our LinkedIn, our company LinkedIn and Facebook page. And I have human vetted. I have like vetted this content. I've added and customized it. And in a few minutes, you'll see a new post, not just on LinkedIn, but also on our Facebook page with a full link preview and original copy, edited copy appear as a post that is auto send. And it's all moderated. Not only is this human oversight here, you don't have to wait for it to generate. I can just write whatever I want in here. And instead of having to copy and paste it to 2 different platforms or worry that anything that gets added here is automatically going to be public, I set up one little checkbox here that allows me to instantly, well, not instantly, I guess it takes a second or two, to instantly post, virtually instantly post to our respective company pages. And that is all fully moderated, fully automated almost, right? And you can see here, this is one of those. It looks very familiar. This is what a recent post that we were sharing. And instead of going in here and doing all this myself, I've set it up once and I can do it now over and over again without any issue. And I said that this is instant and I lied to your faces because this shit is taking, wait, there it is. Boom. There's our link. There's our hashtags. There's our copy. Right. So I'm going to delete that because I didn't actually review that. And I don't want to just be posting on main bot copy. I'm a big hater of auto posting bot copies. So I'm going to delete those real quick. But you can see the process there with very simple trigger and response automations combined with very simple filtered views or checkbox views that you can create a pretty robust and basically fool everybody into thinking you have way more employees than you actually do. And also save yourself a bunch of time and effort on the back end. You save it. You say you spend that time up front setting up this automation, and you save yourself a bunch of time down the line by removing those extra tasks. Rose, great question. Doing this narrative, what can we do to and from a Google Sheet? Again, very similar functionality, a little bit more restricted because it doesn't have like that auto-populate the email address of the speaker or the translator or whatever. But that is a fair trade-off for not having to pay $129 a month or whatever the hell it is for an Airtable. And the fact that Google Sheets does allow you, in fact, to add a little shortcut here. You type sheets.new into your address bar and it automatically opens up a new Google Sheet. You can also insert these kind of drop-down chips. Insert checkbox. So if I take this checkbox and I put it in these columns, you can already see here that this is its own moderation step. So if I title, person, email, task, description, notes and approve, all of a sudden, all I have to do is set up the Zapier to look at this column in Google Sheets. And if it's checked, then it does something with it. And if it's not checked, it holds. So you can do anything you want to these cells, but nothing is going to happen. You don't have to worry about it until you say, okay, ready to send and check. And then Zapier says, roger that. We're going to go out and we're going to send it. I hope the wheels are turning right now in terms of like, oh shit, this is going to save me some time. Because for me, as somebody who has to deal with a bunch of different projects, with a bunch of different communities and constituencies, a bunch of different emails, all this stuff, I'm not going to spend my time. Yes, and you can send it from Slack to there, from there to Slack. I also want you to think a lot about what the opportunities for Slack as an interface are, because Slack not only allows you to embed and upload files, it does link previews. Zapier, when you pull in information from a Slack message into a public or a private channel, oftentimes, for instance, if it has a URL, it'll pull metadata into the preview of the Slack message. So you don't have to do a web scraper. It does some form of web scraping for you automatically. So you can, for instance, you can pull in, a lot of times you can pull in the featured image from a Slack message preview. You can pull in the URL, byline, date, publication time, and other metadata information, in addition to any instructions or additional context and in the message itself. But then on top of that, talk about moderation cues. You can set up custom Slack emojis or just use the ones that exist so that the action only happens. The trigger is when a certain person, like an admin or an editor, adds a specific Slack reaction to that message. And I have one of those set up for you, a basic one for WordPress, where it literally just is looking for 2 different emojis from me only, where if I'm in this channel here, our CJ newsletter, you see I have my little squirrel Slack emoji here. Because I'm the one who added this, all I have to do is I can go up here and I can add, let's see, do I have any that don't have a squirrel? I don't think so. I added this a little while ago. Let's see if I got any of these that don't have a squirrel. Okay, here, let's do this, right? So here's a link that came in. We got the Medium post here. We've got the title here. We've got this excerpt. We've got the date it was published, and we've got a featured image. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add the squirrel reaction, and I'm going to add the Joe emoji reaction because I wanted to pick one that no one fucking uses, and I'm the only one who likes that one because it's me. So these are 2 different zaps that are being triggered here just from one click of the button. One link that came in, one click of the button. The squirrel one automatically adds a WordPress post to the homepage of collaborativejournalism.org, pulls the information from Slack, pulls the information from Slack, Permanent Journalism Collaboratives in the US. It does act on the original date. There it is. Permanent Journalism Collaboratives in US. It does act on the initial date of the message. So you can see this one was Thursday, September 26th. Normally I hit those as soon as they come in, as you can see here. And that will automatically go out. And then that second emoji, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, should create a LinkedIn post on our page that pulls that information out as well. There it is. Boom. So 2 emoji reactions, 1 link, 2 emoji reactions, and we have not only we have WordPress, but we have LinkedIn as well. And this can be expanded. I can make it post to Facebook as well. You can't do Twitter anymore on Zapier because, again, Elon Musk decided to charge like $1 million for those. And I'm just going to delete this other one from our page. We are at 3 o'clock, and I know I've been talking the whole time, and I know that's kind of the point of this, but I wanted to leave more room for questions. I know some of you have a hard stop. Awesome. That's fine. If you want to stay, since I yapped so much, by all means, I'm here for the next 20 minutes if you need me. And please schedule office hours with me. The link is in my email signature. You can just book a time with me, and I'll spend an hour on this with you individually. I don't care. I mean, I'm enjoying this, so.